Honestly, when the V10 was announced, I was extremely hesitant about buying this phone. I mean, truth be told, I probably would have never owned this phone if LG would have never hit me up for review, so big shout out to them, and I'm extremely happy they actually sent this to me, because it's here to make a bold statement. I mean, if you thought the Nexus 6 was built like a tank, you're gonna think that this phone is indestructible. It features stainless steel sides, which do show fingerprints, but has held up really nicely when it comes to scratching. The backplate is texturized, and get this, it's like a rubberized material, which means you're gonna get maximum grip whether it's in your hand or lying flat on a surface. If you combine that with the silicone tops and bottoms, plus the dual layer glass display, this means it meets military criteria for shock resistance. You can swap out the 2,900 mAh battery. It has a nano SIM card slot as well as a micro SD card slot expandable up to 200 gigabytes, but the LG V10 is big as hell. And if you look at it compared to the Note 5 and the Moto X Pure 2015 edition, you can see it towers over both of them. But LG has actually managed to make it a little bit easier to use with one hand despite its gargantuan size. Some of these things include its overall curvature. See, that curvature is there for a reason. It helps offset some of the weight, makes it a bit more ergonomical when you're holding it with one hand, provides better grip, and it has a reminiscent feeling of the original Moto X. And if you combine that with the wonderful screen to body ratio and LG software mini view display trick, it's pretty much a one-handed device. So when it comes to its overall design, LG really has knocked it out of the park this time. The display on this monster sized phone is 5.7 inches, it's a quad HD display, and it features LG's quantum display technology behind it, giving you more vibrant colors, more realistic colors, and overall better sharpness, contrast, and so on and so on. It's definitely not the king of all the displays, as that crown still belongs to Samsung with phones like the Note 5 and the Galaxy S6, but nonetheless, it is a great IPS panel, and you're going to get great outdoor visibility, great viewing angles, and the sharpness is no longer too over sharpened like it was on the G4. Oh, and before moving on, the V10 does feature a secondary display, so that little display offers several features, giving you things like your favorite contacts, app shortcuts, music controls, and a few more options. You can find all those within the settings, and you also have the capability to either show the date and time or a custom signature. Now, outside of my badass custom signature, the reason why I like that secondary display is because it gives you most of your alerts and notifications in a non-intrusive way. In other words, it uses that little secondary display to give you everything rather than popping it up on the main display whenever you are watching a YouTube video or just playing a game or doing anything that you don't want to be bothered doing. The fingerprint scanner is another welcome feature that LG has implemented into the V10, and at first I loved it and I was thinking, yes, this is going to be awesome, but when I went through the setup process, I wanted to throw this damn thing out the window. The accuracy, however, once you go through the painful setup process, is pretty accurate. However, you have to hit the power button every time to use the fingerprint scanner. I guess I was just spoiled with the new Nexus devices and the sense where I didn't have to actually turn the device on to use the fingerprint scanner, but nonetheless, it does work great after you finish the setup process. So of course, now you know that Marshmallow is not running on the V10. Instead, you're getting Android 5.1.1 Lollipop with LG's UI on top of that. And the UI plus Lollipop run extremely well and very fluid, and they've actually improved it quite a bit. Now, they haven't really cleaned up anything per se, but it's definitely a lot more fluid than the G4 was. But at the end of the day, I really could not stand how the LG UI looked cosmetically, so I replaced it with my favorite launcher, Nova Launcher, and my favorite icon pack, Moonshine, and then I downloaded the Google Keyboard. The Google Keyboard wasn't really because the LG keyboard was bad, it was just so that way it could go with the theme. So it features 4 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of onboard storage, and if you compare that up with the micro SD card support, you got like a lot of storage. And then you have the Snapdragon 808 and the Adreno 418. I know what you're thinking. The Snapdragon 808, right? It's totally last year, Well, here's the thing. I have used the 810 and I have used the 808, and when it comes to day-to-day tasks, I have yet to notice a difference between these processors. Now, what I have noticed a difference is with the overheating. I mean, I'm not a mobile gamer, but I just recently started playing some games on the V10, including the new Walking Dead game and then Alien vs Predator Evolution, or Evolve, whatever it's called, and it's performed great. I mean, I honestly did not have any drop frames. Every once in a while it would stutter a little bit, and that was just because I had too many apps running in the background. Once I closed them, opened the game back up, it was like brand new again. So yeah, the V10 is a media consuming monster, and on the T-Mobile network I had really good reception. I was able to watch all the YouTube videos I wanted from my favorite YouTubers, and the overall experience was great. However, the speaker,
more things, but the Nest is $300 versus this, which can be found for less than $100. Like, you have to decide if that style and a couple more things, a couple more functionality, is it worth $200 to you? Figure that out, and then you can make your decision as well. Links for that is down below as well.
Now, the quality isn't the best. You do get some feedback or some distortion at high volumes, but it's not as bad as I've heard from other reviewers or other YouTubers. But the placement is what drives me insane. Yes, I'm happy they moved it from the back to the bottom. However, in landscape mode, when I'm watching a video or playing a game, I tend to cover it all the time and it becomes muffled and it drives me crazy. So you're probably thinking between the gargantuan display, the fact that it's Quad HD, the specs, and all the media that you're going to consume throughout the day that the battery life is going to be trash. Well, here's the thing. I was getting anywhere between 3 to 4 hours of screen on time per day consistently. My first day I got a little bit less than 3 hours, and that was because Talon's sync feature, but nonetheless it lasted me for about 12 hours off the charger. It features a 16 megapixel camera on the back with an aperture of f1.8, has optical image stabilization 2.0, which is LG's advanced OIS, and it also has the capability of capturing 4K. In fact, you can actually do UHD from 1 to 30 frames per second, you can do 720p from 1 to 120 frames per second, or you can do 1080p in a full cinematic format from 1 to 60 frames per second. So a little bit more options than some of the other phones on the market. Now on the front, you have two 5 megapixel cameras, which are great because you have the capability of switching from a standard view to a true wide angle view of 120 degrees. But the real golden egg in all of this camera talk is LG's camera software. It is a bit confusing, unorganized, and at times really cluttered, but nonetheless, it gets the job done and it does a damn good job at it. Of course, you have the general features like HDR, grid mode, you have the ability to capture a photo using your voice, and so on and so forth. And then you have different modes at the top, like simple, which is pretty much for people that should not own a V10. Then you have auto, then you have manual photo, and then you have manual video. Now, manual photo is pretty much the same as the G4, so I'm not going to dig too deep into that. But I'm going to tell you that you can capture raw images now with the V10, and then take those raw images and import them into an app like Snapseed, which does support raw photo editing, and then edit your photos on the go, producing beautiful shots. Now, with manual video, yes, it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's not for the average user though. But you have some awesome capabilities like controlling the 3 microphones that are built onto the V10. You can change the direction of pickup, you can change the actual volume, and then you can put a wind noise cut filter on it. And of course, you have full control over your white balance. You can manually adjust the focus. You have exposure controls, ISO controls, and of course, last but not least, you have a shutter speed. So you can match the shutter speed of your frames per second to give you great video quality. You can actually change the bitrate for your video as well. You can do medium, large, or high, with the highest being around 64 megabits per second, giving you some great overall video quality that you can edit on your computer ever so slightly. This is pretty damn impressive for a smartphone. Now, this is not a point and shoot camera, this is a smartphone. Just keep that in mind. Now, I didn't take a lot of samples because I plan on doing a separate video with all these samples, comparing it to a special guest. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe for that because you're definitely not going to want to miss this video. Seriously. In auto mode, the V10 is meh. I mean, I'd much rather take photos with the 6P or the iPhone 6s Plus or the Note 5 any day over this phone when it comes to auto mode. But when it comes to manual mode and capturing a raw image and then editing that raw image, this thing blows those phones out of the water. You can definitely take some great shots, and with the f1.8 aperture, it's going to give you some nice shallow depth of field. And with video, if you shoot in auto mode, the quality is blech. But however, optical image stabilization works great, and if you crank it down and put it in manual mode and take full control over this camera, you can produce amazing videos. So all in all, the LG V10 is the best Android phone I have used to date. And yes, I've used the Nexus 5X, the 6P, the Note 5, the S6, the Moto X, and so on. And yet the V10 still has me using it and I love it. And as long as they push out the Android Marshmallow update at a good amount of time, I see this phone only improving with better fingerprint support and of course a better battery with the deep sleep feature that is found in Android M. So I'm off for the next 9 days, so make sure you guys keep your eyes glued to the channel because I will be uploading consistently. Thank God. I thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to like, tweet, burp, share, drink, subscribe, and be easy.